For years now, the entry-level ship for miners in Star Citizen was the Prospector. It carried a chunky price tag on launch, so seemed beyond the starter ship category. All of that changes with Star Citizen Alpha 4.1 with the new Drake Golem, an entry-level miner at a much more accessible price point. So, how does the Golem perform in-game, and could this be a Prospector killer? I'm Forrester, and this video will review the currently flyable Drake Golem, which is described on the Star Citizen website as a mining ship. If you've seen other ship reviews on this channel, then you'll be right at home with this video, which follows the usual format. It's split into 5 sections, starting with a ship tour, assessing combat performance, reviewing handling and visibility, looking at the operating costs and profitability, before finally summarising. As always, I've included timestamps in the video description in case you want to skip ahead. And if you're one of the many people watching who isn't yet subscribed to the channel, you might consider it so you can be notified of future Star Citizen videos as they go live. Oh, and yes, for those who are paying attention to the introduction, in theory the Rock mining rover could be an entry-level mining vehicle, but it's not a ship. Anyway. And we'll start the tour of the Golem by approaching from the left or port side. This is a fairly small, self-contained ship. On the front left or port side is a small fuel port which can be deployed with a button. At the front is the canopy, and on the right or starboard side mirroring that fuel port is a small storage area. Moving around to the midships is one of the two 16 SCU ore pods, and at the rear is the second. By unlocking the ports on the ship, these can be detached with a tractor beam. The engine modules that read Golem are VTOL thrusters. To get aboard the ship, you enter via the front, where a pilot seat drops down to scoop you up. Clearly, the Golem is not designed to be a combat ship, but it does include some weaponry, and so it's probably helpful to consider what that means. In terms of armament, the Golem carries 2 size 1 weapons, defaulting to Bulldog laser repeaters, which is the same as the Prospector. They don't do much, but are able to deal with smaller NPC targets. Almost inexplicably, the Golem also carries 2 size 1 missiles. Much like the other weapons, they don't do much, but can help against those smaller NPC targets. Alternatively, they might just spook a player opponent momentarily if they're not expecting to take missile fire when attacking a helpless miner, which may help to make a getaway. It's kinda stretching to hope that, but who knows, maybe. Defensively, the Golem carries a single size 1 shield generator, which isn't going to provide much protection, so any longer engagements are not going to favour this ship. Basically, as much as it's technically armed, you don't want to be fighting with a Golem. Visibility out to the front and sides is good, although there is a cockpit strut on either side of the front canopy. Visibility above and below is a little more challenging, but the ship is small enough that it's not a big issue. Pilots should however be aware that when the mining arm is extended, it comes forward of the ship a fair way, making the Golem much longer than when retracted. The Golem flies surprisingly well. It's notably easier to fly and quicker than both the Prospector and Mole, which both feel industrial. With an SCM speed limiter at 203 meters per second, the Golem is quick, and can actually fly well at those speeds too. With afterburner support, that performance is even stronger, although the burner does drain charge quickly. When planet-side, the Golem is assisted by VTOL thrusters which can rotate to give more precision and lift in the vertical. Outside of the constraints of SCM, the Golem can reach a top speed of 1010 meters per second. It's fast enough to outrun some larger predators, but still slower than dedicated fighters who could still intercept. Nevertheless, that's a good top speed for a miner. The stock quantum drive is a Goliath with which the Golem can travel a single hop across Stanton or part way through Pyro. Upkeep for the Golem across repair, refuel and rearming is cheap, usually in the low thousands of Alpha UEC. And it's a fair moneymaker. Unsurprisingly, the main way to earn money with a Golem is through mining. With 32 SCUs of ore storage aboard, it's on a par with a stock prospector and can tackle the same kind of rocks. Depending on what you find, that could conceivably be in the hundreds of thousands of Alpha UEC per hour. As with the other miners, refined ore still needs a transport ship, meaning a Golem would need to pair with something else or a rental to move things about. That said, even by selling raw ore to a refinery deck, it wouldn't take too long to build up the 1.7 million Alpha UEC purchase price for a hull A, for which the Golem seems a good match. Mining aside, it's also possible to make money through low-end combat contracts using the Golem, but the experience isn't great. It's probably more of an option for new players to use the ship to get a feel for combat, rather than as a dedicated combat ship. As a starter ship, there is however one notable drawback, and that's the lack of any internal space for entry-level delivery missions. By way of upgrades, it might be worth populating the mining module slots. Personally, that would be for a Focus 3 and a Riga C2 module to further boost the power but also give a little help with the charging window size. That's entirely to preference however. In reviewing the Golem, there will be a lot of comparisons to the Prospector. Both ships are able to mine the same 32 SCU of goods in stock configuration, and both are solo ships, so it's the natural competitor. Whilst the ore pods can be removed on the Golem, for now they need to be reattached in order to refine or sell the ore, making it impractical to do so. However, in the future, it's possible that there may be a useful feature to extend the effective capacity when coupled with a mothership. And the Golem does couple well with ships that have a hangar, owing to its small size. Whilst the ore pods are a neat 16 SCU size themselves, the Q&A notes that there are no plans to be able to attach anything other than ore pods to that rear section, making the possibility of cargo hauling with the Golem in the future unlikely. By the way, if anybody from CIG ever watches this video, a ship that could mine but also transport its own refined goods would be awesome, please. Visually, the Golem has a style. There are definitely some Drake hallmarks, but it also feels a little Argo influenced. That style isn't going to be to everybody's tastes, but it's a look nonetheless, as is the neat deploy animation for the mining arm. One of the drawbacks of the Golem is that the mining laser doesn't swap for a different type. That's not as bad as it sounds however, as it's still a strong performing laser, customizable to some extent with 2 mining modules. But for experienced miners who have their own preference of gear, it may be a factor worth considering. The inclusion of a missile armament makes the Golem feel a little more like a starter ship, but it's still missing other key features, like an area for cargo, internal space, and a bed. Having no internal space at all means that pilots also need to find somewhere in atmosphere in order to eat and drink, or remember to do that whilst visiting a refinery deck. That said, the Golem goes fast, it's much easier to fly than a Prospector, and fits in lots of places. As an entry-level mining ship, it's a strong contender. Which brings us to price. At a launch price of $60 or $75 for a game package, the Golem is good value for an entry-level miner. There's no in-game price at time of recording. Contrast that price with the Prospector, which at its cheapest was $140 and is now upwards of $150, the Golem is significantly cheaper, by a wide margin. And this is where we get to a little subjectivity. For this reviewer, the Prospector is the better ship. It has a bed, is more customizable, and arguably looks better. It's not as fast as the Golem, but that doesn't matter hugely for mining. But saying the Prospector feels like the better ship, it's marginally better. To justify that price difference, it would need to be 2 to 3 times better, and it just isn't. For would-be miners, that makes the Golem a very good deal compared to the current offering for the Prospector. At a game package price of $75 at time of recording, it's not cheap, but is one of the cheapest options for a new player, and is probably one of the best moneymakers at this price point, owing to the potential to make huge sums through mining. All of that said, the Golem is fresh off the production line, and it's not unheard of for new ships to launch in a strong form only to be rebalanced a few patches down the line, and the Golem is so much better value than the Prospector, it does feel like something is out of kilter. Time will tell perhaps, but as of patch 4.1, it's a very compelling option. But what do you think of the Golem? I look forward to reading your thoughts in the video comments. If you enjoyed this video, you might press the like button to help me understand what videos to make more of in future, and if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, you might like to do that too, so that YouTube knows to show you more videos like this in future. But otherwise, and as always, thank you for watching.